Level 20 for Level 20 Sportsline. We got a great show for you tonight. We got an interesting guest. My name is Mike Migliore. You got Chip Hayner, Smoking Jim Frazier, Al Levine, the Talking Machine. We're going to start out, as always, with What's on Your Mind. Al, what's on your mind?
What's on my mind is no hockey, no negotiating. What happened here? Both sides have been polarized. They made offers. They tried to split the difference. You had the owners go to 50-50. And I made a couple predictions with the Prophet Hayner on what would happen. And here they made 3 offers, not 1, not 2, but 3 different offers. And one was even, I thought the owners would jump on this one, a 50-50 deal with the players getting what their previously signed contracts were. That may only add 1 or 2%. To me, that would be a win. But I guess when you're going to try to shut down the whole season and you got players playing all over the world making their millions, the average hockey player, I guess he's just waiting it out, playing around at South Point and everything else. So it looks like we may not even have a hockey season. I think there'll be a final midnight little negotiations, Chip, just so you know. I think they'll try to do something, and that November 2nd, that's not going to be a hard and fast deadline. We'll see who blinks. Stay tuned. That's what's on my mind, Mike.
Thanks, Al. Smoking Jim, we know there's something on your mind.
Hey, thanks, Magic Mike. I'd like to welcome actress model Bella Lisa Smith to the show. Please give her a hand. Wave Bella. She just got done doing an outstanding photo shoot with the best photographer in the country, Mike Migliore. And she's getting ready to sign a contract to be in Mike's next movie. And I think I have 15 seconds in this movie before I get killed.
The bro must go.
Why is that? Why you get killed?
15 seconds of fame, huh?
The bro must go. That's what Mike always says.
That is a stone cold hard fact in every horror film. The bro must
If fantasy football had a category for drop passes, Mike Wallace would be the leading point getter. Hey, listen, Mike Wallace is from Mississippi. I've never met a brain surgeon from Mississippi or anybody that could spell cat. Mike Wallace, I never thought would be dumb enough to turn down $50 million. Hey, Pittsburgh Steelers, that $50 million that you offered to Mike Wallace, why don't you give it to Heath Miller, because it's Miller time. Heath Miller right now has 37 career touchdown passes, most ever in Steeler history for a tight end. He's 3rd all-time leading receiver in Pittsburgh Steeler history, behind only Hines Ward and John Stallworth. He got more catches than Lynn Swann, Louis Lips, Eric Green, and Mark Bruner. Hey, Pittsburgh Steelers, do the right thing when it comes to Heath Miller and pay the man.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jim. Chip, the pirate season's over. I don't even know why you came. But what's on your mind?
That's on my mind. Thanks, Mike. He's never going to stop giving me those shots. But what's on my mind tonight is college football. It was quite an interesting weekend in college football. And, you know, the first thing I want to rail about is the BCS. I don't understand how they rank teams. Alabama's ranked number 1. Florida's ranked number 2. Kansas State's ranked number 3. And Oregon's ranked number 4. Now, in every other poll out there, Oregon's ranked number 2. And I don't see how the BCS can rank them lower than the other 2 teams, but I'm never going to figure that out. Also, this past Saturday, down in Morgantown, a certain young man named Geno Smith played his way out of the Heisman race. And the West Virginia Mountaineers once again proved that they don't know how to play defense. But they did do something. Twice they stopped at Kansas State, and they only got field goals. The other 7 times they had the ball, they scored touchdowns. Defense wins championships. That's why I like the Alabama Crimson Tide to take this whole thing this year, because they do play defense. Another thing that perplexed me was I was watching the Pitt Panthers play on Saturday against the University of Buffalo. what a pathetic example of football. I can't believe that Pitt wants to consider itself a Division 1A team. It looked like they were playing a high school team. It looked like two high school teams playing each other. Pitt couldn't run, they couldn't pass, they couldn't really do anything, and they almost ended up handing that game away. And the last thing I'd like to say about college football is look what Penn State's football team has done.
Wow.
Against all the adversity that you could find, they're 3-0 in the Big Ten. They're 5-2. And Bill O'Brien, I think he's a leading candidate for Coach of the Year because without any recruits, without any scholarships, he's put a team on the field that's playing some pretty solid football. So I tip my hat to Penn State.
Thanks, Chip. We're big Penn State fans here. The Tour de France has stripped Lance Armstrong of his, 7 consecutive wins. The guy who is in charge of the chairman of the International Cycling Committee said that Lance Armstrong deserves to not be remembered at all in cycling or in the Tour de France for his wins. Everybody says Lance Armstrong doesn't deserve this. First, let me tell you, Lance Armstrong is cycling.
Yes, sir.
Okay, watching bicycling without Lance Armstrong would be like watching golf without Tiger Woods. You just don't do it. So here they say he doesn't deserve this, doesn't deserve that. Well, you know what? That's fine. Strip him of his titles, just like they stripped Penn State of 11 years worth of wins for whatever reason, okay? But nobody ever proved that Lance Armstrong did any of this blood doping. All they did is say, well, since he stopped fighting it, which probably costs money to go to court all the time and fight that stuff, they just stopped fighting it, so they said, well, that proves that he did it. Personally, I don't agree. But like I tell you over and over again, there is nothing worse than a writer with nothing to write. And now, since Lance Armstrong has been stripped of his titles, you got some yo-yo first come up with the idea that since he was stripped of his titles, that the charities that he worked for are no longer worth donating to. Well, I'll tell you what. Lance Armstrong has charities, probably like 15 charities that he has represented. Most of them raise money for cancer, including his own charity, which is Live Strong, donates hundreds of thousands of dollars to people fighting cancer all the time. Now, let me tell you, if you donated to this charity because Lance Armstrong won 7 titles, well, you're an idiot. Okay, but if you donated to this charity because you wanted to help fight cancer, then, I mean, that's a good thing. Why would you want to take the money back now just because this guy got stripped of his titles? Regardless, there's still cancer out there, and you still have to fight it. You did a great thing donating. That's a good thing. These writers that tell you that people shouldn't donate because he was stripped of his titles are yo-yos. They had nothing to write about this week. Getting back to stripping people of their titles. Well, okay, they stripped Penn State of 11 years worth of wins. They stripped Lance Armstrong of 7 years worth of Tour de France championships. If Congressman Darrell Issa proves that those 4 people were killed in Libya because Barack Obama did not do the things that he had to do to provide their security, does that mean we can strip him of his win 4 years ago and say we just didn't have a president for the last 4 years? Well, guys, great Steeler game last night. Personally, they did a lot better than I thought they would. I thought that Cincinnati would bury them. They didn't look great, but they did enough to win the game. What happened?
They tripped going out the door in the game last night, but they pulled it all together. The offensive line started knocking people over. The running game awoke from the dead. Ben Roethlisberger did a great job of directing the team, but I mean, I saw guys getting knocked over and running backs we've never even heard of before making a big impact. And if you can run for 167 yards in any given game, there's a pretty good chance you're going to win.
Well, the Steelers will beat Cincinnati all the time because nobody on Cincinnati's team respects Marvin Lewis. He's an Oreo cookie, black on the outside, white on the inside.
Well, another thing is he doesn't know how to have those replays and throw the flag out there. Who in their right mind would worry about a 2-yard position on the field at that time and cost yourself a timeout? He actually helped us to win the game because we didn't have to mismanage the clock. And like I said, I thought we could win because of history there. We have a winning tradition in their own home.
You called it.
And that's what I've talked about for the simple fact the Pittsburgh fans, as we all know, who knows? We're not even going to mention it. You know how they are. Today we're going to the Super Bowl.
Absolutely.
Well, there you go. Hold on a second. Here's some of that Kool-Aid. I guess I'm going to have to stay with my 11-5 prediction here, since if the profit's on this, we'll have to get into some other things on that. But
Make your reservations.
Why would you stay with an 11-5 prediction? The Steelers are now 3-3, which means they are on a pace to be 8-8, which the two most knowledgeable people on this panel said they would be.
I'll tell you what, the most amazing thing about last night's game, and last week on all the local talk shows, Ike Taylor was just getting blasted everywhere. He shut down the best receiver in the AFC last night. 1 catch, 8 yards. Now, that 1 catch was a touchdown catch, but the guy's averaging 105 yards a game, and he had 1 catch. Ike did a great job last night.
now, did you see the referees? Because I watch them once in a while, and they swallowed their little whistle there. They weren't blowing the whistle there. There was still holding and grabbing going on. They just let some of that stuff go because we win in Cincinnati.
Well, yeah, I mean, actually, that's not a bad point. For the first 2 quarters, I was thinking that we got to get rid of these replacement refs and get the real ones back. And I remembered, wait a minute, they did. There's not much difference between the replacements, the real ones, and whoever's going to be there next year.
Well, they come to a bad decision a lot quicker than the replacement.
Yeah, and they don't discuss it on a walkie-talkie with each other the whole time, right? There's no walkie-talkies.
They don't take a half an hour to blow the call. They just do it right away.
So, so now they're like on a 1-game winning streak.
3rd one this year.
That's not too bad. It's hard for them to win 2 in a row, but will they play the Browns next week?
No, RG3.
Here at home.
Well, they can't stop the run, so that could be an ugly game too. RG3 is a pretty exciting guy to watch.
He's definitely. I mean, right now he's probably the most exciting quarterback to watch. Because you just don't know what to expect out of him. I'm absolutely amazed. I got to see a fair amount of him playing yesterday, and I thought he was going to pull that game out against the Giants, but he left Eli too much time.
RG3 reminds me of a young Cordell Stewart, so we got to keep him out of Shinley Park.
Thanks for your insights, but I appreciate his scrambling. Did you see the play where he scrambled around, completed the pass? It was about a 13 or 14 second play.
What's he got, like a 76-yard touchdown run this year, too?
Oh, yeah.
That's not bad.
He's the new Cam Newton of this year.
That's
right?
Actually, the Redskins are going to be 6 and 10.
They have been drawing comparisons to Cam Newton, between Cam Newton and RG3, and they're similar in a lot of ways, except that RG3 knows how to keep his mouth shut.
Yeah, no, I think they're similar in a lot of ways, but one way they're not similar. I think RG3 got his degree.
Well, plus,
You can't get your degree in 1 year at Auburn.
Oh, yeah, well, yeah, you can. His dad.
Come on now.
His dad cut,
Come on now. He's military. You're not. He's got to be a little bit smarter there.
For him, He shopped him around.
Okay, well, looking forward, do you really think the Steelers have enough to get into the playoffs? Baltimore got blown out by Houston. Houston did them a big favor yesterday, but it still looks like Baltimore is the superior team to the Steelers.
You know what? The thing with the Steelers is, if they can play the way they played last night from the second quarter on, the Steelers may make some noise, but they haven't proven that they can yet. It's the first time they had their starting linebackers in all season. And, it seemed to make a bit of a difference in the way the defense was playing. But, a lot of questions about that team right now. It's still the running game. They've done it 1 game in a row. They need to do this in consecutive games, put 2 or 3 wins together if they're going to do anything. And I just don't know if they've got the ability to do that yet.
You brought up linebackers, and we talked a little bit about Baltimore. Ray Lewis, torn tricep, out for the season.
No, he'll be back.
Possibly out for the career.
Playoffs.
Ray Lewis was probably one of the top 250 linebackers in NFL history. It's a big loss for Baltimore, but that, what can they do to fill that loss?
Hold it, Suggs already filled both of those positions. Did you see how big he looked? There's a guy that's been off. I thought he was getting in shape. He looked a lot larger, and I'm really optimistic that when he goes away from his hometown cooking and he comes here, he plays like the Suggs who disappears all the time in Pittsburgh. So I can't wait. I think we'll be fine with Baltimore.
Al, he did come back in shape. Round is a shape.
It's not the therapeutic shape.
But it's a shape.
Well, I mean, the thing that the Ravens and the Texans, they're the top two teams in the AFC right now. But Joe Flacco hasn't proven that he can consistently win games. He's very streaky, and he looked about as bad as he could look yesterday. And Baltimore's defense, I mean, now they did play the best team in the AFC yesterday, and they got railroaded. Their defense is not as stout as it was. I mean, there's going to have to be a lot of people that step up, and I don't know. I think this could be the year that Baltimore could be had because they've been hit by the injury bug just as badly as anybody else.
Well, it's been two consecutive games that Baltimore has not been able to stop the run. Dallas ran all over them. Houston ran all over them. Maybe they do miss Ray Lewis a bit, but somehow they need to find a way to plug that hole.
And Elodie Nada's bagged up too.
Yeah, he was limping around.
He's an nose tackle, and he was limping off the field yesterday.
And I think you were half right there. Houston is the top two teams in the AFC. They're far and above better than any other team out there. Even New England is looking. I mean, New England is a very good football team, but they're only 4-3.
4-3. Tom Brady
Yes.
looked mortal yesterday. I mean, he did not look comfortable in the pocket. His throws weren't crisp. He didn't look like the Tom Brady that we've seen in the past. He's always in complete control. I mean, look at that. Mark Sanchez almost beat them yesterday, and
He found a way not to, though.
But he will do that, just like he'll find a way to lose his job to Tim Tebow.
I don't know. He's holding in there.
He's
He's not going to. I think those predictions might be false.
Rex Ryan might be a little goofy, but
Yeah, Rex Ryan, I'll tell you what, they may get a little tired of his act in New York because, you look at what he's going up against. You got the Giants over there, a first-rate organization. They got Eli Manning who can walk on water in New York City. They need to do something to keep up with the Joneses because, Jets fans aren't going to put up with it for much longer.
Speaking of Eli, do you think he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league now with how he brings these comebacks?
Absolutely. No question. He is an elite quarterback.
he might this year he might be the best quarterback in the league. Peyton Manning's looking. I mean, he's doing okay in Denver, but he's not looking like a superstar there. Like you said, Brady's not looking all that great this year. Eli Manning looks very good this year.
You know that Big Ben is in this league. There's not a quarterback in the history of the National Football League that could play behind our offensive line and be productive like Big Ben. Big Ben has been better than Eli Manning from day one, and he's still better than Eli Manning right now.
Hold it. Did you say he's playing behind our line? Because I see him out to the side, out in front of the line. I see linemen laying on the ground, and they're holding guys on the ground with them.
Is it just me? Big Ben breaks Bradshaw's record in 9 years. It takes Terry Bradshaw 14 years to do it. Big Ben must be the greatest. He's on route to pass for 50,000 yards, 400 touchdowns. My man, Big Ben, can't wait to see you in Kansas.
Mike, please give your disclaimer. Mike,
Bradshaw's career.
Mike, throw the disclaimer out right now.
Jim,
You got to throw the
Jim doesn't
disclaimer.
really believe all that garbage. He just says it to entertain these people out here, and that's good. That's why we keep him around. Let me tell you, like I always tell you, Jim, the only thing that Ben Roethlisberger has done that Terry Bradshaw didn't is lose a Super Bowl.
And he beat false charges twice. Undefeated there, too, in the court.
Hold it. Terry had more marriages than he'll ever have. Come on now. He led the league in that also. He's still our #1 quarterback in history here. I don't care what you say about Big Ben. If he did have a good offensive line, maybe you'd have an argument here.
Well, Big Ben isn't done yet. So you know what? We'll reserve judgment on who's the greatest Steeler quarterback of all time when his career is over, and the numbers will speak for themselves.
Oh, you didn't vote with that other station that's out there? I don't know, Fun Station or whatever.
There's only one number, and that's 4.
4 and 0.
4.
4 and 0.
So yeah, the Steelers, cover them pretty well. Personally, I still say 8-8. Al touched on the hockey at the beginning of the show. Rough time there. The owners, actually, the owners presented the plan that Al talked about. 50-50 split. Players still get paid everything that they are owed for this year, and they'll do a full season. I don't know how long that will stretch out to, but they're going to try to play all 82 games. And to me, I don't know, fair 50-50 seems like the standard for what is fair, right? 50-50 split. So far, the players don't like that.
Well, the owners want to go, they signed all these guys to $100 million contracts this summer because if they would not have done that, there would have been some type of collusion on the owners' part and the players would have had cause to sue them. But now they're trying to, make the players not, lose money the contracts that they signed that they agreed to 3 months ago. Like, did they, this part of their master plan, they figure, we'll throw all this money at them and keep them happy now, and then we're going to get them on the new.
I don't want to get into conspiracies there, Chip.
Well, the collusion has, that word has been thrown around before. And
it's alive and well, Chipper.
It's kind of interesting the way this is all working out.
Maybe hockey should bring in Tagliabue to help them straighten it out.
No.
How can you call it collusion? It's a bunch of people that own a business together, and they're talking about what they're going to do to keep their business alive. Right? That's and part of the deal, like Al said before, and like I just said, part of the deal that the owners put out is the people that have contracts would get what they've signed for.
Well, and that's what they need to do. But I think what hockey did, they had the most growth they'd ever had last season. I think hockey's just expanded too far, and there's too many teams that are losing money, and that's the owner's fault for going into areas where they're not strong in. I mean, ultimately at the end of the day, if the league shrunk, and got into areas where it did stronger, it might do better. But I think they've got things spread out, and if there's cities that are losing money, all the teams need to make money, and some of them aren't.
Well, part of the problem is who's a worse commissioner than Bettman there? I mean, I have no respect for him there. He should have held some of the, expansion down, and then they held teams in their own account. The NHL owned the teams, and it took them years to sell them. So that shows there's not a demand in some of these markets there. Maybe they have to put a couple teams back up in Canada.
Well, and here's the next thing you want to think about. Baseball's got a huge billion-dollar television contract. Football's got a multi-billion-dollar television contract.
Good point.
And if hockey keeps on locking out their players, they're never going to get a television contract. They're never going to get the revenue that they need to stay solvent.
Well, that's, I guess it's a fair point. But personally, if I'm the owners, I say, we're going to start the season. You guys are under contract. If you want to come back and play, come back and play. We're not going to sign a collective bargaining agreement. Whoever doesn't come back will replace with replacement players. That's it. I will tell you what. And the reason that will work is because those guys that are Zach Parisi and Ryan Suter that just signed $10 million a year contracts are going to come back to play.
They're not going to get
Sidney
paid that money
Crosby are going to come back to play. That's right. They're not going to make that money in Europe. They will come back to play. And once they come back to play, the other guys, the more role player type players that aren't making millions of dollars every year, they're going to be stuck. Okay, so they're going to have to come back to play.
Right, because you think about, what was it last year? An entire hockey team died in a plane crash because they're flying around in antiquated equipment out there. They're not getting the first-class 5-star hotels. They're not flying in first-class aircraft. They're flying around in, without the regulations. They're putting their lives on the line for what?
Don't worry, in Russia, they're in the military planes there. They're safe there.
They're getting shot at.
And if they cross, they'll break the union, and then hockey will be solvent now. Right? It's the same thing that the baseball should do, but baseball will never do it. And Donald Fair, who is now currently the NHL Players Union rep, used to be the NBL Players Union rep, and he's the one that helped ruin that game. That's why baseball will never be good again.
Well, and speaking of baseball, very important evening tonight. We've got a Game 7 going on. We've got the Cardinals and the Giants. Game worth watching tonight. Winner goes to the World Series to face the Detroit Tigers. I'm going to be watching.
Who you got?
I like the Cardinals.
He made the prediction. That's why he's the
I like
prophet.
the Cardinals. I think it's going to be the Cardinals and the Tigers in the series, and I like the Tigers to give Jim Leland his second World Championship.
Yeah, I like the Cardinals tonight too, but I think that they will win the series. They've got real heavy bats.
They've got real heavy bats, but if you see the way that the Tigers pitching just took apart the Yankees lineup, now I know the Yankees went dead cold in the heat of the playoffs, but some of the credit's got to go to the pitching staff of the Detroit Tigers. All four of their starters pitched amazing games.
I'm with Detroit on that.
Yankees.
Even though a fan of ours out here and a co-host, Big Mike Buter, is out there and he's sulking.
Big Mike!
His
Sorry
poor
about the
Yankees, sorry, buddy.
I call them being swept.
And I like Jimmy Leland there, and I know he'll be there. And I want to give a shout out to Chief, longtime guy that I worked with at the Pittsburgh Press and Post Gazette. There's a guy we have to have on our show to talk sports. This guy, when we were growing up, through the ranks of working at the Post Gazette and Press, him and his dad used to have the statistic books on baseball. He could tell you all kind of stats. I'd love to see him and Big Mike get together. Chief, introduce yourself to Big Mike. We'll have to have a statistic event here for those two gentlemen.
Night.
I thought Big Mike was in the Dominican Republic with A-Rod. Thanks for coming home early.
He's negotiating a contract right now with a new team. I heard Nutting's on the phone with him.
That happened.
Look at the man on his phone.
All right, Big Mike.
Since we're working our way through the crowd, we do have a guest tonight.
Absolutely.
We're going to bring on John Kovacs. He's going to talk a little bit about about Terry Brusselli's talent agency, in case any of the viewers are interested in any kind of acting or whatever. There are a couple of auditions coming up on Saturday he's going to tell you about for some TV commercials and another reality show. So we're going to bring John up. John, come on up.
All right, John.
How you doing? Welcome. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you've been doing, and then about what Terry's agency's doing, and where these people, if they're interested, can go to the auditions this weekend.
Well, I'm a local model and actor, and I've been working with Terry Brusselli for a while now, not just in front of the camera, but behind the camera, helping her out with auditions and things of that nature. She works a lot with her talent. She doesn't just, get them parts. She'll actually work with them. For example, a number of her models walked the runway during Pittsburgh's Fashion Week, and for 2 weeks before the fashion shows, she actually held special runway workshops for her talent that was going in it, where her and the photographer who shares her studio, Douglas Trumlin, he walked runways in Europe, so he would give his personal knowledge to the talent as far as to get them ready for the runways, so that when they would go out there on a stage, he knew her people had the experience and the training out there. She runs a talent agency, TV Talent and Casting, and she usually holds a lot of auditions on Saturdays throughout every month, every now and then. And she doesn't just bring people in to audition for roles. She'll actually work with them there. Usually she does a workshop that's before the audition. So she'll bring people in there that work, and a lot of times if there's a script for the commercial, she'll work with the people in the workshop with that script. So when they get ready to get auditioned, they're already somewhat familiar, and it's not just a cold read. This Saturday she has quite a few things going on. There's an outside movie production group that's coming in to hold auditions. It's for a local horror movie called Pro Wrestlers vs. Zombies, being done by Cody Knotts, who's done a number of feature films in the local area, and they're going to be casting a lot of roles for that there. Also, she has a group coming in to film a reality show dealing with talent agencies and the whole modeling and acting world, which they're going to be filming her workshops, the castings. They've already done one filming already. And they're associated with Ronnie James, who he's also doing a local show here in Pittsburgh called Hot Rock TV, which is sort of like an MTV, it's basically like MTV on steroids kind of thing. And it's like, they show music videos, a lot of local singers that he's featured on the show already, and he's going to be dealing with this reality show as well, and they're going to be doing filming at Terry's during the auditions. And that's this Saturday from 10 to 3 p.m.
Okay, can you tell them where?
At her studio on Ohio River Boulevard.
What's the address? Okay. All right. How about her website? You know.
Her website is tbtalent.com.
Okay. So if you're interested, if you have any aspirations to try to be an actor or actress, you can go to www.tbtalent.com. Get the address. Again, the times.
10 a.m. to 3 p.m. and her workshops are from 10 to 1, and then the auditions start from 1 to 3.
So you can come on out or go out there, audition, and become famous like us.
Yeah, legends in their own
Hey,
right.
and I have a little trivia for you. Guess who already did a promo for Rockin' Ronnie James down at Station Square about a month ago?
You gotta be kidding.
I'm not kidding. And one of your favorite guys, Mr. Ogilvy.
You know, that's what I was just gonna say. Ronnie James is about as
No, I'm just telling you because you guys are looking for jobs. I already did a free promo with Tara Lane, the famous worldwide singer who's traveling the country.
Wow.
Okay.
She sings a great national anthem.
Wow.
So,
Well, Ken Ogilvy, Ronnie James, they're about the same person. They're made
well, I
for each
saw
other.
them at the same
Anyway,
table.
thank you very much. Maybe you want to talk to Bella Lisa over there. She is an outstanding model. Did a photo shoot with her just the other day. So I'm going to go over and talk to her. And I'm sure that Big Mike Butera sitting over there probably wants to come and audition too. I don't know if he'd be a wrestler or a zombie or maybe the referee.
Yes, he could be a wrestling zombie.
Probably be very interested. Thanks for coming. And please stick around. I'll talk to you afterwards. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for coming on the show.
Okay, well, Chip talked a little bit about college football, was on his mind. I know you watch every college football game that you can. What'd you see like this week?
Well, what I see right now that I like is Bella Lisa. If I had a Hope Diamond right now, I'd be set. But I've said before the season started that Matt Barkley was the best player in college football. I still say Matt Barkley is going to win the Heisman Trophy. Matt Barkley got Notre Dame to play. He plays for USC. They got to play Notre Dame. He'll beat Oregon not once, but twice. He'll beat them in regular season. Then he'll beat them at the Pac-10 championship game. I think USC is the most talented team in college football. I'm still putting my money behind USC. Cream rises to the top. USC hasn't peaked yet. They scored 35 points in the first half. Against Colorado, they're just getting better and better each week, brother.
Well, you know, if you watched the game last Thursday night, Arizona State and Todd Graham took on the Oregon Ducks, and he showed he's about as adept at playing defense as Holgerson is down in West Virginia, because they gave up 440 yards rushing as Oregon just ran the ball down their throat. I was trying to find the quarterback stats to find out what his passing. I think the quarterback passed for 48 yards, but they rushed for 440 yards.
Well, you know, I'm a Todd Graham fan, but, you know, that was the worst 5-1 team in the history of college football. Arizona State did not beat any team that was over 500. The only game they lost before Oregon was to Missouri, and Missouri is under 500. So that wasn't a big surprise that Oregon ran up and down the field against an inferior Arizona State team, but they got to go to play the Trojan Army, and I tell you what, Oregon has a small offensive line. That's going to be the difference. USC, and they don't have to go to class from Monday through Friday, so USC, them big boys, will be pushing Oregon all over the field. I guarantee you USC beats Oregon this year.
See, unless you've known Jim for a long time, you can't really tell when he's telling you a joke, but he just finished a really long one. USC is not the best team in college football, and if you watch football for the last 2 weeks, last 3 weeks, or if you only watched one game this year, and it was the West Virginia game, you know that Colin Klein is going to win the Heisman this year.
Yes, he is.
Because like Chip said, Geno Smith played his way out of it, and Colin Klein is head and shoulders above everybody else. He might be standing on Barkley's shoulders. That's how far above him he is.
Well, I'll tell you what, Kansas State, you know, an impressive win last week, and they very high ranking and well deserved. They've got a really tough road to hoe the rest of the season. They're playing a lot of ranked teams as they go out through the season. If they make it through the season undefeated, he definitely wins the Heisman Trophy, and you know, they would have a very strong chance at winning the national title. But you know, they're not going to be playing any pansies. I think almost all the teams they're playing from here on in are ranked.
What are they playing? Flowers?
Kansas State.
We got to play Oklahoma.
Even undefeated, Kansas State will not get a chance to play for the national championship unless there's only one other undefeated team, and maybe not even then. Yeah, Alabama's going to play for the national championship even if they lose the rest of their games, because that's been written in stone since last season. And they're not going to give. They're trying not to give Oregon a chance. They moved them back to number 4 in the BCS, even though they're number 2 in every other poll.
Yeah, they moved Florida up there because they think that it's the SEC is where the national championship's going to come from.
Well,
they're going to see to it.
Well, don't forget this year that there's 4-team playoffs, so these 4 teams will get to go.
So which 4 teams from the SEC are going to go?
Are you sure it starts this year, not next year?
Oregon, LSU, Alabama, Florida.
You're right, man. I thought it was this year.
Well, I don't know. I thought it was next year, but either way, there are teams that just are not going to be allowed to play for the championship. If Boise State goes undefeated, don't even think about letting them play for the championship. All right, this year, the championship could very well be Alabama against LSU.
What team did you say? Did you say who?
Boise State.
Listen, the only difference between Boise State and Cheerios belong in the bowl. Boise State doesn't.
Well, not this year, but when they're undefeated, they do.
Hey, I want to go back.
I like bluegrass. I mean, really blugrass.
You know, this is
So does Mike Adams.
You know,
He likes any grass.
They did this because what was about 25 years ago, BYU won a national title because they were the only team in the country that ended up undefeated. You know, and they, you know, and you figure, well, if they're undefeated, nobody else lost, they had to give them the title. Then they got into this strength of schedule stuff, and it's like, you know, I don't know. I don't like the BCS. I think it's a bunch of crap. But, you know, that's the system that we have to deal with.
Hey, Chip, it's not a bunch of crap. It's about the money. We've gone over it before. This BCS is all about the money, the schools, who they bring
out of it. That's what it is. BS.
Well, it should be disbanded. We've all talked about that before.
The reason Boise State doesn't have a hard schedule is because those teams won't play them.
That's true. That's true.
Alabama would never play Boise State, especially at the beginning of the season. Get beat, lose their season right away. Those schools like Utah had a couple of great seasons. Boise State, Texas Christian. These teams come up. They're not constantly good, but every once in a while they come up with a great season and they have a great set of players. And if they're undefeated, they should get the opportunity to play for the championship.
And you're talking about Utah, who had Alex Smith, who played on the undefeated season, and now Alex Smith, being that he didn't get the national championship, Alex Smith will get the Super Bowl championship this year with San Francisco.
Well, and, you know, you look at the way they got college basketball is that some unheralded team can come up and have an opportunity.
Don't lose that ratings talking hoops, Jim.
No. The point is that somebody can come out of nowhere and win the national title, and in football they don't have that system. There are about 6 or 7 teams that have a shot at winning the national title, and everybody else is just a spectator.
Yeah, it's something that there is college basketball, but there's no pro basketball. It's like, you know, it seems like a pretty good sport. It should be good professionally.
Well, you can't do what you do in basketball. You can't do it in football because you don't want to take the kids away from their academics that long.
And they don't play any games with the academics in basketball. Coming out of high school, then going pros the next year. What's that, one and done?
No, they get that 1-year degree from college. You
Is
know?
that what that is?
Calipari gives them that 1 year.
Yeah, but then why does he move on? Why does he move on to different schools?
A new starting 5 every year.
And then how come he has to go? And then why does he change schools?
No, well, because
Why does that happen?
because when he violates the rules, he wears out his welcome. Because the next school he goes to is going to get sanctioned until he leaves.
Exactly. So, but he's a good Pittsburgh guy. Come on now.
Moon Township sounds good.
Well, okay. Really, I know there really is professional basketball, just not here.
No, never will be.
It's tried though. Tried a few times.
Never will be.
We got the perfect arena now for a professional basketball team. The Console Energy Center is beautiful.
And it's not being used right now.
Maybe we could do a show out of there.
You know what? There might be an opportunity. I've been to a couple networking events there, and here was the biggest gimmick there. You could go down for $20, and the kids could go skate on the ice. So parents brought their kids down there the other night to have a little skating session. So there are some opportunities. Maybe we could visit there. They do have a nice facility.
Well, one opportunity I know that we have, and about starting in 1 week, high school football, Western Pennsylvania. Football is alive and well in Western Pennsylvania. So everybody, please go out and see the modern-day gladiators, the Gateway Gators.
I can't remember what the young man's name was, but there was a high school running back this past weekend that
400
rushed for
yards.
400 yards.
He only thought he had 300.
Yeah, he only.
What grade's he in?
He doesn't know.
How many times did he have a concussion?
Who's he play for?
And Montour's been one of the strongest teams in its division. They played a game
West Allegheny beat
against West Allegheny. The score was 5-3.
Did you say baseball?
No, this was football. These two teams, they're learning how to play defense. See, in high school.
They put Tyler Palco in the second half to win the game. for
Yeah,
West
that was
Allegheny.
an amazing.
Did he come back?
Watching the highlights of that game, but the young, I can't remember where the kid's from. Rushing for 400 yards in a game.
Wow.
That's an amazing feat.
That is the obvious difference between high school football and gladiators is that the Gateway Gators are still alive. Whereas if they were gladiators, well, then, you know, North Allegheny would have left with their heads.
Yeah. Yeah. That was just a little bump in the road, huh?
I still believe the Gateway can go most of the way, but I think the championship game was going to be Upper St. Clair and North Allegheny.
Well, don't forget, Upper St. Clair got beat by the Blackhawks. Bethel Park upset Upper St. Clair 2 weeks ago. And I tell you what, if you love high school football, get behind Bethel Park. They got a 9th grade quarterback. Just happens to be the coach's son. But I tell you what, the next 3-4 years is going to be an exciting time for Bethel Park football. But I tell you, an interesting team, if you go down the AAA ball, is Thomas Jefferson. Thomas Jefferson's always been a running team. This year they're a passing team. I tell you what, Thomas Jefferson in AAA may be kind of unstoppable with their passing game.
You know, one of the things I've always wondered about Thomas Jefferson, and over the last 7 or 8 years, they've just absolutely dominated AAA. I mean, when are they going to move up to Quad A and start really playing? I mean, it seems like they're playing so much better than everyone else they're playing against. Maybe they need to start facing stiffer competition.
Well, I just want to know one question. How does North Allegheny's quarterback, Leftwich, he plays for North Allegheny, but his dad is an assistant coach for Arizona. How does that exactly work?
Well,
But they don't
Hold
recruit,
it.
right? They don't recruit.
What's this Gateway connection here with all
We
the
recruit.
departments?
We openly recruit.
Okay.
They recruit in 6th grade.
Why you think I brought Bella Lisa? We've taken a few out of here tonight. We recruit.
No. Okay. Any parents that need jobs in housing in Bethel Park, see Smoking Jim Frazier. Give me a call. I got them on speed dial here. They'll help you out.
I'll find you some good
Hold it.
Section
You
8.
already got a recruit for my alma mater. Who's the Keystone Oaks kid you guys plucked out of Keystone Oaks?
Charlie Batch is a slum lord. We can open some things out in Monroeville with him.
Well, at least we have some opportunities. Since we're talking football teams that maybe should move up a level, what do you think about Clareton here?
that's when Thomas Jefferson steps up to Quad A will be when Clareton steps up to AAA.
Well, this is what I think about Clareton, the same way Thomas Jefferson thinks about Clareton. You know that's in the same school district. Thomas Jefferson said, we got to get away from Clareton, so they opened a whole new school. I think you ought to blow Clareton up and start all over again. But I hope that Clareton gets beat this weekend. They're playing Amani Christian Academy. Amani Christian Academy, I tell you what, they got 3 Division I recruits, and the only thing they can't do, the Amani Christian Academy, before the games, they usually do the Tebow, but Tebow got a trademark now, so that may hurt them before the game.
Well, you know what, that might not be such a bad game. Amani Christian Academy, Terry Smith's brother, the head coach there.
Yes.
You know, the players obviously aren't the best players that you could get, because Terry would have took them. But
He already did.
but I would love to see them stop Clareton. I would love to see them be Clareton up. It's time for Clareton to step up in class. They should be a AAA team. You're right. They should blow them up. And Jim has history with Clareton. It wasn't too long ago that on a show somebody called in and told him that if he ever comes to Clareton, they're going to shoot him. Well, yeah, and only because Jim told the truth about some bum that they sent to the Golden Gloves to fight, shouldn't have been in the ring with anybody, got his butt kicked, and Jim called it like it was. All of a sudden, everybody in Clareton wants to shoot Jim. Well, you know what? We're at the level 20 lounge. Come on down. I'm walking out of here with Jim. Come on down. The 2 of us will take out anything that Clareton can send out.
All right.
Go get it. Starting to feel a little better, huh?
We'll have to call Robin Clark back in to report on Clareton, like she did the last time. Well, that might be the opportunity to call her
We
back
call
out.
Robin Clark back in. She don't have to say nothing. Just sit right here.
But we got to put out a congratulations. Many a days I walk through Aliquippa High School. I've never seen a book or a teacher, but Aliquippa this weekend set a record against Beaver Falls, beat Beaver Falls 66-7. And one thing I can say about Aliquippa, size-wise, they're only an A school, but they move up to AA, and that's what Clareton needs to do. They need to show some heart like Aliquippa and move up to AA and play some better competition.
Well, I mean, they do have a good program, but you're right. They should move up into a range of competition that you know they should be in, instead of playing all these schools that have no chance to beat them. And while we're giving our congratulations, I'd like to send out congratulations to Indiana of the WNBA, who won their championship
All
last
right.
night.
All right.
What do you know the players on the team?
With one girl from Pitts.
There you go. I knew you'd drop a name.
Yeah, we're Facebook buddies.
I see.
You and 2,000 other people, right?
All close friends too, Smoking Jim.
Do you know any of those friends you have on Facebook?
Intimately.
If you want to friend him, you can't go to Smoking Jim Frazier. It's just Jim Frazier. So you can be one of his new closest FB buddies.
Hey, Marvelous Marvin Hagler. Marvelous Marvin Hagler went to court to have his name changed to Marvelous Marvin Hagler. I see that in Jim's future also.
Oh, I thought he changed his name to 0-1 against Sugar Ray Leonard.
I have a tape of that fight, and it's labeled the crime of the century because Hagler beat Leonard like a dog, and it was the worst decision I've seen in boxing ever, and there have been some bad ones.
Oh, yeah, there has.
Nice move, Devin.
And you know, Marvin Hagler, after Sugar Ray beat him to death, he moved to Italy with Tony.
He did move to Italy and started a film career.
I haven't seen any of his movies.
Ray Leonard can't see or speak.
Because he dies in the first 30 seconds.
He can't do that. Well, it's not a horror film. It's only in horror films. Only in horror films the bro must go. So you know what, we got a couple more minutes to waste. Let's see what could be the worst thing we possibly do. Big Mike, come on up and sit with us for a few minutes.
All right, Big Mike!
Hey, Mike, I don't know. Big Mike, I don't know.
Got the leather jacket, cool.
Wow.
I was watching the show, and I really appreciate this being a more professional show than any show I've ever been a part of. But what I noticed is there's some dead air every now and then. That's why I'm sitting here, because that's why I'm sitting here. And I want to tell you what. This a couple shows ago, I was schooling the fellows on the.
That's enough. Go ahead, sit back down.
6 degrees of separation, et cetera, et cetera, et
What
cetera.
does that mean?
I have no clue, but nevertheless, I'm gonna make it seem like I do know what I'm talking about. Because sitting right there is Deanna Schiff, a girl I grew up across the street with back in the. I'm gonna say me in the 40s and 50s. You are much younger than that. But can you believe us? I haven't seen this girl in like how long? Here
Why
she
would
is
you
tonight.
mention her age there?
I didn't. I mentioned mine. You know what?
You said you grew up with
I've
her.
only
Come
been sitting
on.
here 60 seconds already. We're going back and forth with each other. This is unbelievable. I mean, it's been a long, long time, and here she is. I understand she's a friend of yours. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
This
Absolutely.
girl and I are her two brothers. I mean, we were close. We were close because we lived right across the street from. Is this thing working?
God, I hope not.
Mike, it's shut off. Just say.
Big Mike, while you're here, you know, you're my baseball cohort. Let's talk about what happened to your beloved Yankees.
I'll tell you what. That's a good question. I'll tell you exactly what happened. I don't want the peanut gallery to hear this as well. Exactly, what is this, Monday? Exactly 9 days ago tonight, the baseball season for me ended, as well as for the New York Yankees. When DJ, that would be Derek Jeter for the peanut gallery, when Derek Jeter broke his ankle in the first game of the ALCS, the Yankees are going down after that, and they certainly did. And I will tell you what this means, which I was going to save for another night, but it means that Derek Jeter is truly not only a great baseball player, but an inspirational leader as well. And that really says something for a ball team, any ball team in any sport.
Well, and it also proves beyond any reasonable doubt that Alex Rodriguez is not a leader at all in any way, shape, or form. And the Yankees are burdened with that $27 million a year salary. They couldn't sell him right now for anything.
I got to spin on that too.
Yeah.
Because if the Yankees or any other team would entertain taking on A-Rod, that means the Yankees would have to pay $20 million of his salary, correct? So now they have, in effect, a $20 million void and a third base void. So why not just keep him, pay him $30 million a year, because he is a $10 million baseball player, and in effect, that's what you get. The 30 minus the 10 equals 20, or however you want to go about it. And I like the guy.
You know, I mean, I personally don't. I don't think he cares about his teammates at all. He's more interested in picking up girls behind the dugout instead of rooting on his teammates. You know, the guy swings and misses at the ball. The catcher drops it. He's cussing at the bat, walking back to the dugout instead of trying to leg out a hit. You know, trying to run it out. I mean, he's lazy. He's overpaid. He's the most overrated player in baseball.
I just don't think he has the it that Derek Jeter has, for one thing. But there's a lot of other players that have it. Somehow, some way, this guy is not functioning up here like a guy of his caliber should be. There's no way you do some of the things he does.
His ship has sailed.
And I like the guy.
The guy was a great baseball player for a long time, but everybody sees it, comes to an end, right? And you know how you'll know when he's finished for sure?
He'll tell you.
When the Yankees dial a number that starts with 412 and says, "Hey, we'll pay $26 million in this guy's salary if you take him," then you'll know for sure that he is finished, and the Pirates will jump all over that.
Well, that would be part of my solution for the Pirates, Chip, if you don't mind. I think that the Pirates, not that this is going to happen, but I do have fantasies, and I'd like to, well, whatever.
Okay.
The Pirates should hire. Why? You guys know me.
Go ahead.
The Pirates should hire Lou Piniella as the general manager. Bring in Terry now it can't happen, and it didn't happen because that can't happen. Francona should be the field manager. Nick Swisher, who's done with the Yankees now, should be the right fielder. And for $4 million, you could have the $30 million guy.
Look what the Red Sox did. We consider them a winning organization. They traded for the Toronto Blue Jays manager, John Farrell, today. Okay? Now, here's what his record is for the last 2 seasons, 154 and 170. Okay? So they're bringing in a losing manager to a winning organization, and I wonder what that's going to do to the Mets.
That's a good
Go ahead,
question.
Chip. You lit the fire now. Go ahead.
Mike?
I told you, when there's a culture of losing, you don't bring in a loser. You have a culture of winning, you bring in a loser. One thing can happen either way. Okay, maybe this manager wins with this team, but you know what? The players on this team, the players on the Red Sox team are not all that good. Last year, this guy's not going to help them. Okay, the Red Sox I believe, will have another losing season under this guy, and I like that a lot because I always hated the Boston Red Sox. I hated the Boston
Patriots. Some of the most obnoxious fans that I've ever met. But the Red Sox, if they spend a couple of $100 million this winter, I don't know. Maybe they sign Josh Hamilton and they resurrect the franchise. But he's out there, and crazier things have happened.
Do we have enough time for my New England baseball fan story?
I think we got 4 minutes.
Oh, I can feel it. You know that. I was in Portland, Maine, years ago, and I was young and naive. I had a New York Yankee windbreaker on. It said NY, right? My wife and I are walking into at lunchtime, walking onto a restaurant that's floating in the harbor. It's a popular restaurant in Portland, Maine.
I've been there. I know what you're talking about.
I can't. The name escapes me, but there's 4 young guys walking on, and I'm making eye contact with them, and they go like this, thumbs up. I'm pretty cool with that. My wife and I go in. We eat. We come walking back out. Now here comes a guy my age, dressed in a suit and a tie, walking toward me. We make eye contact. I figured this is going to be pretty cool. Well, it turned out to be disaster. The guy got in my face and just read me up and down like what kind of nerve. I mean, he used bombs and bombs and bombs, and I'm telling you. Now what the point I'm trying to make, I know I'm always trying to make a point, but the point I'm trying to make is in New England, sports is a religion, especially maybe baseball. But and as a New York Yankee fan, I will speak for the New York, because when the Red Sox play and they got Red Sox guys dressed up like that, they're left pretty much alone unless it's a mutual get in each other's face. But in New England, sports is a religion. Whereas let's talk about the greater metropolitan area of New York, it's a game. There's a difference, and
and then also Portland has a Red Sox minor league affiliate, the Portland Sea Dogs. So they're kind of passionate about their Red Sox up there a little bit. I've seen Sea Dogs play. They're nice little stadium.
absolutely.
What's a Sea Dog? What's a Sea Dog, Chipper?
Oh, I think it's like a seal or something like that.
To be honest, there's nothing north of New York that shouldn't be plowed under anyway.
I don't know, Michael. The coast of Maine is beautiful. I gotta tip my hat to that.
You can plow the whole place under and still have a coast.
Yeah. But if you ever go there, you'll bump.
I've been to Portland, Maine, with the Navy. I've been in there. It was okay, but
water's a little
people
cold.
are crazy.
Water's a little cold.
Everything's cold there.
I guess one thing to be said for those sports fans, they are passionate, a little, but nonetheless passionate. And I agree with you about John Farrell, although I think, it's obvious the reason why they brought him in is because of his experience. I think he had 2 or 3 or 4 years under Francona, so there was something established.
The interesting thing I'm going to look at next year is how's Francona going to do in Cleveland, because he's not going to have an organization that's spending a couple of $100 million in salary for him. So what kind of a team is he? Because he's moving into a smaller market team and they don't have the money to spend.
Terry Francona will turn that team around. They might not win the division, but they'll be a competitive team there. Unlike what we have down the street
he's going to be going up against Chicago White Sox and Detroit, and those are two very strong teams right now.
They said they might not win the division, but they will be competitive, and they'll come up with a winning record. Sometime in the next 2 or 3 years, they'll be a competitive team.
That'll be interesting to watch.
That's what Terry Francona does. All right, thanks for coming up, Mike.
Thank
you, John. Thank you for watching us at Level 20. Thank everybody for coming in here, and see us next week for Level 20 Sportsline.